We start with the main game at lunchtime, which was Manchester City against Arsenal. I wasn't here with you yesterday morning because I was at this game for talkSPORT, covering it for Game Day exclusive. And Cass, it was just all one-way traffic in this one, wasn't it? Apart from maybe a bright 5-minute opening spell, let's say, for Arsenal. But after that, it was all Man City.
Yeah. Well, you know, me being unprofessional just now, if you want to put a performance and show it to a dressing room and show you how much you can do wrong in 90 minutes, that is a perfect example. Because I was astonished of what I've witnessed. I watched a game where, OK, you're 2-0 down, you go down to 10 men, which was a pretty daft thing for Xhaka to do, the type of challenge he made. And then afterwards you lose 3 more goals and then watch at 5:30 Chelsea defend with 10 men. I'm watching the polar opposite of 10 men at Chelsea do what you're meant to do. You know, there was an old saying is, it's really difficult to beat 10 men. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. That Arsenal team after 2-0, that was an easy to make it 5-0 and could have been 6 and 7 quite comfortably. Why? Everybody's out of position. Everybody's doing their own job. There's lifeboats at Arsenal, that's for sure. And it might even include the manager in that. Because all I witnessed from yesterday was a team of a couple of non-triers. And if Aubameyang thinks he can get away with not even moving a leg as a centre forward, because he was totally disinterested in the game yesterday. You can make mistakes, bad performances. Callum Chambers was extraordinarily bad. I mean, for the first goal, for the third goal. I mean, when you've got Jack Grealish running at you for the third goal, get tight to him. Don't make it easy for him and back off a yard or two. And he was one of a few in different performances. They've got a team who cannot defend. Even good players that they've got can't really defend. You know, I look at Smith Rowe, he's a fantastic talent. He can't defend. Odegaard can't defend. So you've got a midfield that can't make tackles or decent tackles. You've got defenders who can't defend. And all your best players or so-called younger players who are talented are not really good defenders anyway. Your whole team can't defend.
Like I say, I was at the game and travelling up from London yesterday morning on the train. You can imagine there were a lot of Arsenal fans getting off at Manchester Piccadilly. The atmosphere was pretty special, I thought. You could hear the Arsenal fans sort of anticipating something, thinking that maybe, now I know as neutrals looking on, we're all thinking, well, they're not going to get anything at Manchester City, but they went there with hope, thinking maybe this could be a game that could turn something for them around after what has been a really disappointing season so far. And you could hear the chant. You could hear the atmosphere building. And as we mentioned, 5 minutes in, it was looking all right for Arsenal. And then it all went wrong with Manchester City scoring after 7 minutes. Then they made it 2-0 after 12 minutes. Then you had the red card, as you've pointed out. And after the red card, it was just game over, wasn't it? And the second half in particular, having been there and sort of sampling everything, it felt like a training game for Manchester City in the end more than anything because, as you say, there was no resistance. There was no stubborn defending from Arsenal. They just allowed Manchester City to walk into the box so many times. And it could well have been more than 5-0.
It could have been. Look, you spend, or you'd like to think, all week preparing for a game. The manager knows the opposition because he worked at the football club, so he knows majority, 90% of that team, City, he knows their qualities. And he also knows his own team. So you spend all week trying to set up a plan, have a game plan of how you take on Manchester City. Now, he took on Chelsea the week before and played, well, a flat back four that obviously just got battered because Chelsea's wing-backs just caused them so many problems in the game. So he's done the opposite to what Chelsea did in the week before in the game, Arteta. He's played a 4 against a 5, if you like. Chelsea played 3 and then wing-backs pushed on. So they're like a 5. And it backfired, didn't it? They got taken apart. They conceded 2 goals and weren't really in the game. The next week, you take on Man City and you decide to go with a back 5 against their back 4. Why don't you just match up to the opposition? That's the starting place for me. If you're in trouble in your team and you've got injuries and you've had COVID issues, you haven't got your absolute first 11 out there, whatever you do, match up the opposition. Make it a game of endurance and tests. Well, they lost that one, but hands down. But also, don't set up the team wrong. Arsenal was, and I listened to you and Dean talking up, and I quite understand what Dean meant when he was saying, I think Arsenal's only chance of getting something is to have wing backs and that. But the problem is the team on the other side play an opposite system to you. And that's where Arsenal fell down because they never looked organised. That is a crime from a coach's perspective. You must set up your team difficult to beat. And that's why I brought in Chelsea with 10 men, because Arsenal played for, over half a game with 10 men. But they played with 10 men badly. And that's a criticism of the coach. That's not just how you played in the 90 minutes. It's
2 games then in succession that Manchester City have scored 5. Prior to yesterday's game, there was all talk of Harry Kane. There was all talk of Cristiano Ronaldo going to Manchester City. And there was all this talk of they need a striker. Do they still need a striker? Bear in mind, we know that Kane and Ronaldo are not heading there for this transfer window.
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
they do. They do, because they wanted one. So obviously Pep recognised that he needed a striker. That's why they were interested in Harry Kane. And by the way, assessing, which is a bit unfair, Norwich and Arsenal as your benchmark for the season, well, that's not a good idea, because that'll backfire on you. And by the way, Arsenal are worse than Norwich. If you took the Norwich performance against City, which wasn't very good, and you took the Arsenal's performance against City, Arsenal's was way poorer.
And of course, Arsenal play Norwich next.
Well, I mean, look, I've said, if you're going to give someone 100 million, I've said this in the week before, if you're going to give them 100 million, don't just give them 3, 4, 5 games, because that's too big of an investment at a football club. It would be negligent just to sack him because you've given him a load of money. Now, that, unfortunately, if you read the headlines today and the performance and all the carnage that's going to follow, he might not get even close to 5 games, because, how far do you take it after you've been beaten by Manchester City in the manner? You can be beaten that. I mean, many a time in your career, you get beaten and you've been humiliated. Fergie's been humiliated in a game. So has Pep Guardiola when he, lost in Barcelona, when he was with Bayern. He lost game 4, I think it was 4-0. And it happens.
Liverpool last season.
Yeah, Liverpool getting battered, but it can't be a common theme. It can't be a regular occurrence, and then you go, oh, well, they're unlucky, had some injuries. Oh, and someone got sent off. Oh, and the goalkeeper made a mistake. Oh, and the centre-half, didn't do his job. And we got, whatever excuses, you run thin of excuses. And yesterday's performance had everything, even if you were looking just as a coaching, manual to say what you don't do. Arsenal did everything they shouldn't do yesterday, and that included Xhaka getting sent off, because his tackle was, for me, one that he just wants to make a statement, maybe to the fans, and I don't know, that they think, oh, he's trying his socks off, because that tackle was just needless and pointless.
Weekend Sports Breakfast with Natalie Sawyer and Tony Cascarino. Sunday mornings from 6 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.